Hey there, it's your friendly neighborhood inventor, Gary Schuster, and welcome to another episode of Innovation Cafe. Today we're going to be talking about one of the superpowers that inventors have. When I think about inventing, I realize all humans have these powers, but we've learned to ignore them for some reason or other, and we need to pull them back. And so one of the biggest superpowers is the childlike superpower. The superpower to be like a kid, creative like a kid. So here's the thing about kids. Children do not yet know what's impossible. And as a result, they often accomplish what adults think is impossible. Why can't we be more like kids? Well, we can. That's sort of the thing. So let's think about what some other folks have said about this. Pablo Picasso says, every child is an artist. The problem is staying an artist when you grow up. Nailed it. I mean, I got nothing really to add to that. Peter Pan, the book Peter Pan. Wendy knew that she must grow up. You always know after you're 2. 2 is the beginning of the end. Well, I don't know if 2 is the beginning of the end, but it's certainly not too far before the beginning of the end. And why is that? Well, when you're a little kid, you're taught to play. That's your job, is play. Your job is learning and play. Learning if you're doing it right. School if you're doing it right is your job. But you don't want to leave your creativity behind either. So kids are naturally creative. And by the time you're in grammar school, we're starting to teach you things that can't be done. And so you learn, on the one hand, in school, here are the amazing things we can do. We know how to do. We figured out as a species. And here are the things that we know we can't do. We've figured it out as a species. The problem is, one of them is usually right, the things that we know how to do. And one of them is very often wrong, which is the list of things that we think we figured out can't be done. And kids do not possess a whole lot of respect for the things that can't be done. And thank goodness for that, because that's how humans have creativity, is grown-up kids who have not forgotten that you can test this thing. You think it can't be done? Let's test it. Now, Dr. Seuss, kindly rhyming, fantastic Dr. Seuss, nailed it, but not in his usual kind manner. Adults are just obsolete children, and to hell with them. Yeah, that's actually Dr. Seuss. He was a fairly smart guy, in addition to writing a lot of books that I remember fondly from when I was a kid. So let's talk about humans as a species. As a species, our timing sucks. It's terrible. And why do I say that? When we are young enough to be filled with creativity, dreams, limitless horizons, all of the amazement of childhood, we don't have the tools to turn those dreams and ideas into actual inventions that can be built. We don't have the skills yet to act on our most beautiful ideas. But by the time we have the skills, usually our creativity is in the rearview mirror. And that's really a shame. So let's do something right now. If you have kids, and preferably younger the better, give them a binder and write on the front of the binder, have them write, "For me when I am 25." And have them write every cool, fanciful, beautiful, creative idea that they have in there. Because they may not yet know how to turn those ideas into actual reality, but they will figure out how to do it as they go through the education system. The problem is you don't want them to be able to turn these things into reality and no longer be creative enough to come up with them. Now that said, you're watching this show, which tells me that you have a commitment to creativity. And it's pretty easy to avoid having the creativity drained out of children. Let's imagine the kid with the creative mind, the one who's always playing around. I mean, she's brilliant, she's creative, she's fun, and she's on the fast track to graduate school, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, university, and, graduates with, say, an MD. And one day at work, the creativity peeks out and says, it's really interesting. We're doing this thing, say she's a radiologist, we're doing this thing with imaging, and I'll bet you that this would be a really good way to image for metal fatigue. But someone else must have come up with it already. It's not really my area. I know it can be done in my area, and, I'll just leave metallurgy to, the material scientists. That's a terrible idea. I can't tell you how many inventors I've run into who were convinced that their big invention had already been done, that it didn't make sense because it was outside of their core competency, that they must be overlooking something because otherwise someone in that field would have come up with it. Well, that's entirely exactly wrong. The people who are in that field have spent years having hammered into their heads what we think is impossible. They're told, well, we can't do metallurgical analysis with x-rays that way, it just won't work. But maybe there is a way to do it. And maybe you just need someone who knows something about x-rays to look at it, and without that burden of being told it can't be done over and over and over while getting educated, maybe that person really can figure it out. So if you wanted to have a huge breakthrough in, astrophysics, you might want a theoretical physicist who specializes in quantum physics, because they'll have been taught enough physics to know what's possible, but they won't have been taught what we think is impossible. And that's really, it's a persistent problem in how humans operate as a species. Inventing is for kids and for grown-up kids who have not yet lost their creativity. Outgrowing your creativity is a choice. And sometimes the choice requires you to stand up for yourself or stand up for your kids. Here's some really quick rules, okay? You cannot get the correct answer the wrong way. There is no wrong way to get the correct answer. So I'm a parent, and one day my oldest comes home from school. She's in 6th grade, and she's got this forlorn look. She's got a paper in her hands and a forlorn look on her face. She says, "Dad, we got to talk." And we all know that every bad conversation starts out with, "We got to talk." So I'm a little on edge here. And she says, "Well, Dad," I said, "Well, come on, what's going on?" She said, "I got an F on my math test. I'm really sorry." I said, "Okay, well, let's talk about what went wrong. Why do you get questions wrong on this? Why do you think?" She says, No. I got them all right. I got the right answer on every one." And so now I'm really confused. Well, what's the problem then? Why didn't you get an A? She says, "Well, I got the right answer, but I got it my own way, and the teacher said that wasn't the right way to get the right answer." Wow. I mean, smoke starts coming out of my ears, but, when you're around your kid, you don't want them to see that. But luckily, I'd been scheduled to give a talk about innovation to her class the next week. And so I made sure to hit that topic over and over again. That if you are creative enough to invent a new way to solve a problem, you get an A automatically. That is great work. And if it's important that the child be taught how the right way to do it is, you just pull the kid aside and you did so well. That's amazing. Now I got to show you how old people like me do it. Okay, because you got to know both ways, but amazing that you came up with your own way to do it, and reward them for it, okay? The other thing, reward asking questions. Okay, now I'm not big, and you'll figure this out watching the channel, I'm not big on shortcut sayings that, don't really move us forward on creativity, But here is a good one. There is no such thing as a bad question. If it's legitimately a question that you legitimately don't know the answer to, asking it should be rewarded. Even if it means the kid wasn't paying attention for the last 10 minutes. Even if it means that you were sitting in a meeting and you daydreamed for a couple minutes. You still ask the question, and you should never be penalized for asking a question because you're trying to learn. So that's another thing that kills off creativity. A kid will have an idea and want to talk about it, and adults too. So the adult has an idea and wants to speak up in a meeting, but it's kind of a question. Well, could we do it this way or could we do it that way? And people feel like, well, I'm going to be punished somehow for going against how they think it should be done. So I'm not going to ask the question. And we also need to let kids follow their own path. And, had I been sitting with my sixth grader while she was doing her math homework, I'm pretty sure I would have failed on this count. I would probably have said, oh, no, that's not the way that the book tells you to do it. Okay, and I make a living with creativity, and I would have failed it. Adults just naturally are not as creative as kids. So we have to really go out of our way to not shut kids down as they follow their own path to solutions. You're an adult now. Presumably, people listening to this are adults. Kids, great. You're showing interest in innovation. I'm really proud of you. So, as for adults, that creativity is still there. Everything you had as a kid is still there. It's just hidden under layers of you can't do this, it can't be done, it's impossible. All the things you were taught, don't ask questions, you can get the right answer only one way. It's buried under all that. So you got to reach back into your childhood and pull that creativity forward. Pull it through all those blockages that have been installed through these years of school and work experience and life experience. Let's just wrap up here. There's plenty more that we need to talk about with childhood creativity and why children have that creativity and adults lose it. But we'll stop here. This was part 1. This is Gary Schuster, your friendly neighborhood inventor. You've been watching Innovation Cafe. Please go ahead, give this video a like, give me a follow, make a comment down below. I'll be reading the comments and interacting with folks. Innovation Cafe, signing off.